Implausible Nature now has dice. That's right, you can get these awesome D6s made by our partner Baron of Dice. These custom dice have the Implausible Nature logo on the 6 side and also come with square corners, which means they will roll more evenly than rounded corner dice. Head on over to baronofdice.com and use discount code IN40K to get a discount on your order and support us at the same time. Check out his full collection of dice for all your gaming needs with the link down in the description.
Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's video, we are talking Reivers. Now, I know Bob and I gushed a lot over them when the data slate came out. We talked a lot about them in that video. In today's video, we are going to talk a little bit more in depth. We're going to go over why we like Reivers and why we think they're actually a good unit now. Who would have ever thought we'd be saying that after how many editions have they been around? How to run them, what to run them with, how to use them on the tabletop to get the most out of them. And then we did some Math Hammer as well. So we're going to kind of cover all of those for you, sort of tactics and how to use Reivers. Plus, since the data slate, we've had a chance to get some games in with them, get some practical experience with them, see if they are in fact as good as we thought they were going to be, and they are in our opinion. So let's get right into it here. We're going to take a look at their data sheet. So they have the standard Space Marine stat line, nothing special there. They do have a couple of pretty good abilities. Number one, they have Scouts, which is very nice. Scouts 6 inches. That plays well into virtually any detachment you want to run them with, especially in Wrathful Procession. It's very nice. They also have the ability to get grav shoots, which gives them deep strike, and a grapple launcher, which is a bit of a confusing wording. Some people are not sure what it means. Basically, what it does is it allows them to ignore vertical distances when traversing terrain. What that means is if you have a building or a ruin or something like that, instead of having to go diagonal up to that top of that building, they can just go horizontal. That's something that we don't often think about when looking at a unit, but it's actually pretty nice to just be able to. It's basically the old fly rule. They just get to ignore vertical distance when moving, across terrain. So then they have 2 abilities. The first is Fearsome Assault. At the start of the fight phase, each enemy unit with an engagement range of 1 or more units with this ability must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from that test. So that's decent. You can, cause your opponent to not be able to use strats on that. But the real reason for why Bob and I are so excited about Reivers is Terror Troops. While an enemy unit, excluding monsters or vehicles, is within 3 inches of 1 or more units with this ability, subtract 1 from the objective control characteristic of models in that enemy unit. This is super powerful. It is crucial because, number one, as we discussed on our Discord the other day, you do not have to have, it is not enemy models within this distance, it is enemy units. So if 1 unit is barely within range of your Reiver unit, their entire unit loses an OC. This means Reivers can straight up steal objectives from OC1 units, which is really powerful in a game that is primarily based around scoring. So some really good abilities there. Their melee weapons, which of course we're going to take over the ranged rifle, which is pretty terrible, is the combat knife. It's basically a chainsword at this point. 4 attacks, strength 4, AP 1, 1 damage. It also has the precision keyword, which is another nice bonus. And they have a decent bolt pistol as well. It's 12-inch range. AP1 bolt pistol, basically, also has precision. So a pretty solid array of weapons. Nothing crazy to write home about, but it will definitely clear chaff. So yeah, thoughts on the data sheet, Bob?
So the data sheet actually got a huge glow up with our update here, which is huge. The biggest one, obviously, was the abilities. Being able to strip an OC off of an opponent that's within range of it is huge. And we'll talk about in just a moment. There's ways to really kind of manipulate that on the battlefield. But also the bonus to the AP on the combat knives really indirectly buffed the Reivers. So it took them from really a support unit to something that actually can do some damage on the battlefield, especially in our detachment. Both of them are going to be good with the Reivers. And one of
Yeah,
the reasons why we're making this video. So
yeah,
I really like the fact that they made a way for us Space Marines players to really impact OC in a more meaningful way, and really kind of updated the old rules because it was
yeah. It,
not usable.
it was not great. Something else of note, they do also have the smoke keyword, which means they can use the smoke screen stratagem, which with the nerfing to armor of contempt, especially if you decide to like deep strike reavers in or rapid ingress them or something like that, you can pop that smoke if you get caught out in the open. You're gonna get -1 to hit on that enemy, and the benefit of cover. So a really nice keyword to have, and of course they have all the other requisite keywords of most Space Marines, grenades, infantry, all that sort of stuff. So yeah. All right. So that is the data sheet for the Reivers. Let's take a look. There are two characters who can attach to this squad. Which one do you want to take a look at first, Bob?
Well, let's talk about our. Let's go with the Reiver Lieutenant
The
because that's the
bespoke,
namesake, right?
yeah, the bespoke Reiver Lieutenant. So he is your pretty standard again Space Marine character. Tough 4 wounds, 3 up save. He has a since he's in Reaver armor, he has a lot of the similar type things that his squad mates would have. He has a master crafted special issue bolt pistol, so it hits on twos, still AP 1, strength 4, precision.
Hmm.
It is damage 2. He has a combat knife as well, also has precision. He gets a couple extra attacks. He's got 6 attacks. Weapon skill 2 plus. So again, nothing crazy to write home about. Um, he also has scouts, so he can scout them as well as the smoke keyword. The big benefit of him is going to be his ability. Obviously, he's a lieutenant, so he gets the tactical precision, which is that unit can get the lethal hits ability, which is very nice. But he also has deadly terror. While this model is leading a unit, increase the range of that unit's terror troops ability by 3 inches. So now that 3-inch bubble becomes a 6-inch bubble, which is pretty hefty. The big downside to the lieutenant in Reaver armor is he cannot get a grav shoot. So there is no deep striking. You have to start them on the board or in strat reserves and walk them on. So that's kind of a big bummer for him because he's literally the bespoke lieutenant for this unit. So thoughts on the lieutenant in Reaver armor, Bob?
So as far as the data sheet goes, he's okay. You're really taking him for his abilities. You don't really care about the other things. He's got scouts, which allows you to continue to scout with the Reivers themselves, and then you're giving lethal hits to your Reivers. But what really is the key point with these guys, and really I think the only reason why you would consider them is manipulating the range of the OC removal. So having 6 inches is huge on the battlefield. This allows you to hide in ruins
Mm-hmm.
behind a wall that where your opponent cannot get to you if you're at the appropriate length from the wall. and you can strip the OC from something that's on the center objective or on the other side once in No Man's Land. This is a huge, huge game changer and forces your opponent to deal with these guys. And as the video is currently printed, the unit's only 80 points.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus the
And
cost of the
both
lieutenant, which is I think
both LTs
55.
are 55. So 135 points for a 5-man plus an LT is not bad for what is essentially a distraction unit, a utility unit that's gonna help you score points and win games. They're not gonna be amazing at killing stuff, but that's not their job either. So you do still get the scouts, so you can get them in position pretty
Yep.
easily. Honestly, you don't really care about them shooting or anything, or more than likely charging anything. So you can advance them turn one as well, which will get them, more in a position to like protect a objective or force your opponent to kind of deal with their aura. But overall, I think he's okay. Missing the deep strike really takes a good chunk of your utility away of being able to play tactically and decide at game time, yeah, I'm going to deep strike these, or yeah, I'm going to start them on the board. Um, so that is a pretty big downside for him. The extra bubble of the Terror Troops um, has definitely come in handy in the times I've run it, which is really nice. But at the same time, it's definitely a trade off. So,
Yep.
uh,
I think he's much better in Wrathful Procession because you get that extra 2 inch movement,
yeah,
and he's a lot easier to maneuver around the board, so you don't have to rely on deep strike with him.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, all right. So let's take a look at his counterpart, the Lieutenant in Phobos armor. Basically, the same exact stat line as far as his, stats are concerned. He does have a couple of weapons. He has a bolt pistol and a mastercrafted scoped bolt carbine, which is 2 shots, 24-inch range, hits on twos, it's damage two, no AP on either of his guns. His melee is a little different. He's only got 5 attacks, still hits on twos, still strength 4, AP 1, 1 damage, but he has sustained hits 1. So, that probably evens out. Doesn't have precision, which is a bit of it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. And of course, he gives lethal hits as well. And the big downside or big bonus for him is strategic dispersal in your shooting phase. After this model's unit has shot, if it is not within engagement range of any enemy models, it can make a normal move of up to D6 inches. This is he also has a grav shoot, so he can deep strike, which
Yep.
means you can deep strike him in with the grav shoot Reaver squad, which makes him really juicy. It allows the move shoot move, gives them huge mobility, especially out of deep strike, making that 9-inch charge to maybe charge their home objective that's got a chaff unit sitting on it, just guarding their, babysitting their home objective, makes that charge significantly easier. Because you're gonna roll d6, move d6 inches. That's the average is gonna be about 3 inches on that. That makes a very makeable 6-inch charge for them. And if you really needed to, you could re-roll that. Well, actually, no. I don't think you can re-roll that because it's not a advance roll. It's just a normal move of up to d6 inches. So, fortunately, no re-roll on it. But more often than not, the average is you're gonna roll 3, making an easier charge for yourself. Um, so yeah, overall, I think personally, I think he is a better pick than the Reiver Lieutenant. But what are your thoughts, Bob?
Okay, so when you're taking the Phobos Lieutenant instead of the Reaver, he plays a different role in the list, in my opinion. So you got to kind of consider him very similar to the same role as our Inceptors. The reason being is you drop in the 9 inches, you can fire, you're gaining 3 inches, then now you're 6 inches away, so it's very similar. You're going to be paying about the same amount of points for it, 135 at the time of this video. Um, That's not including any enhancements that you might give him, which I'll get to in a second. But he does give you the ability to get those charges off really, really easily. You charge in to that unit, as Alex mentioned, potentially kill that unit. If you don't, you're stripping one OC from whatever's left. So this is a great way to either play the secondary objective game. Maybe you just need an action monkey wherever you need it to the other side of the board. Whether that be you only have a little tiny space on the board to drop in because your opponent's screened. Now you're able to shoot at something because remember, you do have to shoot something. But the 24-inch on the Mastercrafted Bolt Carbine will allow you to do that easily.
Yeah.
So that you'll be able to shoot something effectively, or at least get a shot off, and then you'll move into the range of where you need to get to a little bit easier, so it's give you a 3-inch change. So that's important there. Also getting those home objectives, if you need to get those home objectives, that's obviously a role. Or just anywhere on the board where you need to insert something really quickly and get it onto an objective. It doesn't have to be in your opponent's side of the board or in their deployment zone. If you need something just held into Deep Strike, put it on the board. Oh, I need a quick response unit to get over there, and I need something to contest or even take an objective from my opponent. This is a great unit to do that. It's hard to deal with. You really need to be really good at screening, and you really need to screen off a lot of the board to be able to effectively do this, because if you get it in your turn, most likely they're going to be charging into wherever you want them to go, because failing a 6-inch charge is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But
especially you can re-roll that if you need to. So.
Yep.
So yeah.
But I do want to say on this one is because of the Mastercraft Bolt Carbine is damage 2. If you're in Righteous Crusaders, the enhancement of Witch Seeker's Bolt is a good take on him for 10 points. That gives you precision, anti-psyker 4+, and devastating wounds.
Yeah.
So while you're not going to be obviously probably facing too many Zerker models, but it gives you the devastating wounds, so it'll potentially address the AP issue with the weapon. So you can put through some random 2 damage shots into your opponent.
You also get precision, which is nice.
Yep.
So which fits well with the Reivers pistol's precision. So yeah. So those are the data sheets for the characters that you can run with it and the unit itself. And Bob and I both believe that there are a couple of different ways that you can run these squads. What's your favorite way to run these squads, Bob?
So when it first came out, I played a lot of time with the 10-man with the Phobos Lt. I went the damage route with these guys to try and maximize the damage that they could do. After Alex and I played some games, I had attempted, before the update, I had attempted to do these guys without the additional AP on the combat blades, and I just wanted to see how they worked out. And unfortunately, the points reduction that they got really didn't kind of get validated until the update and the OC change. I believe I was playing Necrons against them, and they flopped.
They flopped hard.
Now they're scary. In that same situation, Alex doesn't have that objective, and they kill a lot more.
Yeah.
So damage-wise, you can make them do damage if you want to. If you want to put an extra unit in there, so 160 points for the unit plus the cost of the character, you can invest some points into them and have a legitimate threat for your opponent, especially, well, actually either of our detachments. Righteous Crusaders, obviously you can buff the melee a little bit better with Accept Any Challenge or Elite and Crusader's Wrath. But you also, in Wrathful Procession, you also have the plus 1 to your strength if you so choose. So you're going to get that break point, so you're going to be wounding on 3s. You can also get the rerolls to hit of 1. So there's some options there as well. But most recently, I'll be honest, I have been taking them as solo 5-man units, using them very similarly as a scout unit.
Yeah. So, and then you touched on the second way to use them, right? So, there's really basically three ways to run this unit. You can run it as a big 10-man, in which case you're kitting for damage. And if you're taking a 10-man, I'm probably taking the Lieutenant in Phobos armor because I want to either deep strike them or I want that move, shoot, move. Which, by the way, doesn't preclude you from charging like some of those abilities do. This one does not. So it can really help them get across the board, even if you decide not to deep strike them. Um, but you want a character in there for the lethal hits for sure if you're kitting them for damage. Um, the uh, the other way is run them like a scout squad, a 5-man, no character. Just trying to utilize them in the same way we use 5-man jump pack intercessor squads or scout squads. And then the third way is a 5-man with a character. And then at that point, they have a very specific purpose. If it's a lieutenant in Reiver armor, that squad's purpose is to go find an objective and either sit on it or sit nearish to it and steal it from your opponent if they try to come in range. The Phobos lieutenant is you're probably going to deep strike that 5-man and bring them on to take an objective from your opponent's side of the board or clear a chaff unit or go, try to kill a character or something like that. Basically, go try to take an objective that your opponent is currently taking with some kind of most likely chaff unit or a OC1 unit. Um, so yeah, those are kind of the three ways to run them. I will say if you are interested in running them damage wise as a 10-man unit, I would not do that in Wrathful Procession. And part of the reason is we're going to get into that here in a few minutes when we look at the Math Hammer. They just, even with the extra AP1, it's still just a bit lackluster, right? I mean, they'll a 10-man with they'll kill a guardsman squad, but ideally if you're trying to get maximum output of them and you're going to invest the extra 80 points in the extra 5 guys, I want to be able to give them Crusader's Wrath at the very least. The extra AP is huge for them, especially with lethal hits. You're probably either going to be in Suffer Not or whatever vow you're in. If you're in AAC, you're going to get an even bigger buff to them. If you're in Suffer Not, then you get Crusader's Wrath gives them the +1 strength, which is nice. And then if you're in, Uphold the Honor, they're a little bit more durable, and you still get the extra AP, from the Crusader's Wrath, which is really super important for them. So that's my take on these guys as far as how to run them, what their focus is depending on which ones you want. So speaking of math, let's take a look at the Math Hammer. I've got it broken down in here into 4 different categories. You can see I've got it where it's no buffs at all. It's literally just the unit, a 5-man unit with an LT, so basically the lethal hits. Now note these numbers do not include the LT's attacks. So they'll be a little bit higher than what they're showing here when the LT attacks. It was just much easier just to go with just what the unit's damage is. The plus LT means that they have lethal hits. And then the 10-man. And I did it with Accept Any Challenge, Crusader's Wrath, and then Accept Any Challenge and Crusader's Wrath. And you can see here, the basic Reivers they're okay. Even like the biggest buff for them is either going to be Crusader's Wrath or Accept Any Challenge and Crusader's Wrath, right? Obviously, the LT gives them a buff. It depends on what they're going into. But there's definitely some interesting numbers here. They're okay. They're not great into Marines. They are pretty decent into Eldar and Guard because they're wounding on 3s. You're not going to want to throw these into a tank unless you buff them, to the max, right? AAC and Crusader's Wrath and 10 man, and even then you're only doing 7.4 damage. So it's not a ton. They're not a crazy damage dealing unit, but they'll chew up infantry pretty well. Even Marines, they'll take care of pretty well. I think if you're gonna do a 10 man and you don't want to like invest a ton of extra CP in them, like for example, I probably would not spend the CP on Fervent Acclamation, but I might spend it on Crusader's Wrath. So yeah, we also included characters in here because they do have precision. So you might think, well, maybe I want to hunt a character down. So we included the character, Marine character is going to be tough 4, 3 up save, 4 up invul, and 5 wounds. Eldar characters are the Phoenix Lords, I think is what they're called. They're all tough 3. They are going to be 5 wounds, I think, 2 plus save, 4 plus invul. So you can see here the numbers, depending on what you're doing. Crusader's Wrath is pretty much the way you want to go if you're only going to try to minimally buff them in order to get, that character dead. Falls just slightly short on the Marine character, and looks like it just on average kills the Eldar character. So thoughts on this this damage table here, Bob?
Yeah, so you can kind of see where its strength lies. It's going to be anything that's going to be tough 3 is its best target. But even still, you can still do significant amount of damage to a Marine equivalent body, unless they have significant extra durability things on it. Then obviously that's not a good choice.
Yeah.
But what you're going to be seeing here, Accepting Challenge and Crusader's Wrath, is going to be doing an exorbitant amount of damage to anything that's Chaff or Eldar Guard, well beyond the size of the units that we're typically going to see on any of that stuff. So it really is telling that you don't need to overbuff these guys to do damage.
Yeah.
So another key thing on it, I think it's really kind of important to see here, is that you really don't need the 10-man for most of the things that you're going to be going and attacking. If you're having a 10-man guard unit that's sitting on an objective, you're going to kill it with Crusader's Wrath and the Lieutenant. As long as you haven't taken any losses, obviously. If you need to put in some Accept Any Challenge and Crusader's Wrath, you can certainly do that to buff your damage a little bit there if you incurred some casualties. But really, that's what you're really going for, is you're killing 5-man units or absorbing a charge to prevent your opponent from getting further up into your objective, bubble wrap, speed bump, whatever term you'd like to use on that popcorn unit. Force them to kill you, do a ton of damage to them, well, relative ton of damage.
For their
You're going to
points
inflict some damage back on them,
Yeah.
as well as forcing them to be -1 AP at the same time. Or you can be more aggressive about it and just go straight into them and force them to fall back from you. And unless they have that stratagem to allow that, or they're playing Space Marines, Gladius, then they're not going to be able to shoot at you.
And a couple of things to note too. Like I said, these numbers do not include the characters. So if you're including a lieutenant in Phobos armor or even the Reiver armor one, and you charge a squad of guardsmen, the average for the squad is 10. The character is going to make up for any variance in your dice, or maybe if you've taken a loss or two. And then don't forget, you also have pistols, which is basically another 5 shots of the same thing, strength 4 AP1. So they're going to be very good at killing light infantry, Eldar Guard, those kind of things. That's really where they're going to be most useful. And you can pair them with units that are your really durable or really deadly melee units, and basically like at the end of whatever that fight is between your sword brethren and whatever scary thing your opponent has, the Reivers are just hanging out there 3 inches away, reducing your opponent's OC. So that's another way that you can utilize them to kind of get the most out of their ability, and not have to like make them a sacrificial lamb unit by throwing them into a unit that's going to annihilate them or that they're not going to do any damage to, right? So yeah. So that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. How have you guys been doing with Reivers? Have you been running them? What successes have you had? Any ways that you're running them that we didn't talk about in this video, let us know down in the comments. We always love to get your guys' insight as well into what games you've played. Everybody's meta is different, and we love to hear about all of your success stories. What's working for you, what's not. We're here to make sure we disseminate all the information that we can to the community. So don't forget to smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, all those YouTube algorithm things. Speaking of which, we now have YouTube memberships. We thank all of our YouTube members that have joined us recently. Greatly appreciate you guys. We've got a lot of cool benefits going on with that. We also have a Patreon as well if you prefer to support us there. A lot of the same benefits that you're getting. We have Discord as well, a really active community of folks talking every day. Tactics, Templars, a great community where you can come in and find the help that you need to get better at the game. So until next time, keep on crusading.